Anyways, so every single position that the New York Giants were told to target in free agency by myself, Mike, and Anthony, they targeted players too. What's up, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Brawl podcast brought to you by the Brawl Network. As always, for this evening, I'm going to be your host, Usaid Koshal. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Usaid Koshal. Follow Anthony's work on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. He's probably writing like 7 articles a day for Empire Sports Media. Go check that out too. And then Mike's a little pissed at the world right now, just because of everything that's going on. He's not annoyed at Barkley anymore. You can go check him out on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT. He'll give you some crazy laughs and whatnot. But guys, let's get right into it. How you guys doing today?
I'm a little stressed. Had to move out of college, and everything was in boxes, and had to search for my adapter to do this. So I'm a little annoyed. But how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm happy with the Giants signings. You know, gotta love Giants Twitter. You know,
I'm not happy.
It's always a fun time. Oh, this episode's gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it, man. Let's start it up.
Dude, it's annoying, and you can follow us on Twitter at Giants Brawl, by the way. We're on Facebook by the same name, from the social media account. I'm like, hey, listen, the deal is the fact that would you rather just do what Jerry Reese did 4 years ago in free agency and just throw all your money at these random guys because they're big names? Or would you bring in the right guys to fit the system? Now, I understand Blake Martinez, Levine Tolaleo, Kyler Fackrell, they're not big names on the market. These aren't going to be like, crazy game changers, but they're still going to get the job done. So, Anthony, I'll start with you. I mean, because I know you're trashing the Martinez signings, so let's start there. What's up with Martinez, man?
The guy has an 83% completion rate when playing pass coverage. So he can't cover my grandmother if he wants to. I don't think he's all that great in run defense either. I know he had 144 tackles last year, but that's just a product of being in the right place at the right time for the wrong reasons. That's him not being able to cover somebody in coverage and then tackling them after they gain 15 yards on him. He misses a lot of holes. If you just go search Blake Martinez on Twitter and click videos, you can watch 10 minutes of videos of just him either whiffing on tackles, missing his assignments on run fits, getting toasted in coverage. The guy, I can't understand why we gave him $10 million a year when, I mean, if you look at the other 2 linebackers that signed, Joe Schobert got $10.5 million, and then Corey Littleton got $11.5 million. If it were me, I would gladly pay that extra $2 million to get a player who I think is double as talented in Corey Littleton. I don't think Blake Martinez is all that good, and Packers fans don't think so either. They're happy to see him leave Green Bay and go out the door. And of course, it's such a Dave Gettleman move. Let's sign that one stat padding, run defending inside linebacker when we all know the biggest need is to get a coverage linebacker for this team because we've got the run stuffer. David Mayo's fine at that. He can't cover either, but he can play against the run. Now we got another run stuffer in Blake Martinez, but we still don't have a linebacker who can cover a tight end. And until we get one, we're still going to get demolished over the middle, and it's going to be not so good. I mean, it's like Alec Ogletree 2.0, just a lighter skinned version. I don't know.
Oh man,
I mean, Mike, what do you think, man?
Man, Anthony's good, man. I got to give it to him, man. He almost gets me to like sway my opinion on the Giants and start bad about them. Like, he's really good, but damn, man, like I think it's a good signing, only because Blake Martinez was a leader, on one of the defenses on Green Bay. For the years he was there. You need somebody in the middle of the field that could, kind of set the tone on the defense, let the guys know where they need to be. He did have a lot of tackles. He had a career high 155 tackles in 2019. He had an interception, a couple forced fumbles or whatever, but you need that. You need somebody like, hopefully he could be like, I think I wrote on Twitter, hopefully he could be like an Antonio Pierce where he could I'm probably not as good as Antonio. Let's not get crazy, but at least he could get guys lined up, get in the right position, and maybe we won't see all this other defensive guys out of position. And when that happens, when guys are out of position, what happens? They, besides the missed tackles and the touchdowns over the top, maybe he's a good signing. We don't know because, like you said, with Mayo and him, sure they could stop the run, but you need a guy that could cover. Now, is this just a prelude to them at the number 4 pick getting Simmons, which could go out and cover a tight end, and you won't need these guys to do something maybe they're not capable of doing or they're not best at. And Joe Judge said that he wants guys that could do what they do well, and he's apparently a good coach. Maybe he won't put guys in a bad position.
I'll say I think that's the best counter argument, is that Joe Judge said he's going to make players play to their strength, but as soon as you get this guy in pass coverage, it's a wrap. So maybe it is a prelude to getting Isaiah Simmons, and then it makes a lot more sense to me, and then I won't hate on it as much. But to me, with all the moves we made, to me, they signal that we're going offensive tackle at number 4. We haven't addressed the offensive line in free agency, and we've addressed the defense with 2 linebackers, now 3 if you include re-signing David Mayo. So it looks to me like they're trying to stay away from getting Simmons. But I also want to bring up, you said he was the captain of the defense, and I want to point out Alec Ogletree was also the captain of our defense, and I also found another similarity between them. Martinez completion percentage 83.8%. Alec Ogletree completion percentage dead flat 83%. So, like I said, we're not going to see any improvements in pass coverage from our linebacker group after the signing, and that's what ticks me off about it.
Here's the thing, right? It's like, so one dude got mad at me on Twitter today because I was like, hey, the signing is only one thing. Like, don't judge the signing when it's announced by like Rap Sheet or Schefter. Judge it when it's on the field. So like Martinez, man, I'm mixed about him because like Mike said, if these guys are in place, like it could all work out, But like if these guys pull a James Betcher, if Patrick Graham pulls a James Betcher and they're just like all over the place, then people are going to be coming after Dave Gettleman. So that's why I also look at like James Bradbury. I mean, another guy that Giants, again, were expected being on Byron Jones, but they settled for Bradbury. And let's be real, like, Mike, I tweeted this out from the account yesterday, and you reacted to it. Bradbury got, like, 3 years, $42 million, right? And the cap's going to spike in cap. First off, the cap keeps going up every single year. And so when it continues to go up by, like, 10 to 15 million, it's going to be a major spike in 2021. That's a contract that's going to look like 10. And you're getting someone that like Dave Gettleman drafted. So Dave had info on Bradbury like before, he even started to pursue him.
Yeah, listen, we lost out on Byron Jones. That he got a lot of money in Miami. No state tax. That's a lot of guaranteed money. And the Giants were in there. They were up there trying to get him to the end. And you know what? We lost out. It's not, you can't blame Gettleman for that. He just went with the more money, more guaranteed money. You can't blame the guy. I can't blame Byron for going there. And we settled for the next best thing. And I think Bradbury, he's a good corner. He's one of the top guys that was on the market this year. I'm happy we got him. He's a veteran. He's still young because we're trying to fit that young core team of the Giants. 26 years old is kind of like the mean average of like all these guys on this team. He might not be the best as like breaking up passes, but he has more picks than Byron Jones, I think, right? So I mean, he might be a good fit for this young secondary we have. I hope.
Yeah, and I'll say I was probably a little harsh on this signing as soon as it happened. I wasn't a fan of it, but I think my expectations were just a little too high, and I was really hoping for Byron Jones. So when I found out that we signed Bradbury, I was disappointed more that we didn't get Jones than the fact that we got Bradbury. But I also think that it is an expensive contract. But you're right, the money's going to go up, and I want to preface everything I'm saying because somebody said this to me on Twitter. I'm not allowed to root for Blake Martinez next season, and yeah, I am. I just don't think it's a good signing now, but I'm hoping he proves me wrong. He's a Giants player, so he has my full undivided support. So I got to say that before anybody decides to repeat what that guy on Twitter said. But also, if you look at James Bradbury, the other reason I'm not super excited by this is because a lot of people were throwing these stats in my face of and like I said, I think he's a good player, definitely an upgrade at the position, and he's got my support. He's a Giant, so I hope he does well. But people were throwing like the fact that he covered Julio Jones, Michael Thomas. But if you go look at those games, where is it? Let me pull this up.
Yeah, so just
against those guys.
Yeah, if you look at those games, you see they lost to the Falcons 29-3. Like Julio's not getting the ball in that game. That's no question. They lost to the Falcons again 40-20. Julio doesn't need the ball in that game. And then they lost to the Saints 42-10. And Michael Thomas only had 2 targets in that game with 0 receptions. He probably only played a quarter of that game. So I don't really I'm not putting that much stock into those stats. And when I watched a bit of his film, I saw he wasn't necessarily locking them down. They were beating him on some routes, although he was doing better than anybody on our team currently does. So it's definitely an upgrade.
Nobody's going to beat this guy in a Giant uniform. I'm telling you right now. Nobody's going to get open. Nobody's going to complete a pass on him. Not even Tom Brady when he comes up here from Tampa.
As soon as he puts on that big blue, he's going to turn into the best cornerback in the league.
See, here's the thing, right? So, like, with Martinez, some of his success can kind of be attributed to, like, Preston and Darius Smith. So, like, in that respect, you see why he had, like, 100-something tackles last year. But when you also look at it, you could also argue that he's like a product of the defense that was around him. Now, I personally don't think that that's true just because, like, again, I've watched straight linebackers just living here in Chicago for so long, and I know, like, a really good linebacker even at the college level when I see one. So, like, I can tell you right now when the Giants draft Simmons at 4, because Dave Gettleman listens to this pod because he did everything we told him to in free agency.
True.
You know, he's gonna step in and really be, or Simmons gonna step in and be an upgrade. But like you look at Jones, for example, so they could have gotten, I don't think people realize they could have gotten Jones or Bradbury because Jason Garrett coached Bradbury while in Dallas. Or no, Jason Garrett coached Jones while he was in Dallas, and then naturally Gettleman, like I said a couple minutes ago, he drafted James Bradbury in Carolina. So they had intel on both these guys. So like there's no reason to really be mad. Intel on a player just from like way before the guy even signs with the team or the tampering period begins, like people don't realize like how underrated that is because it's all about, hey, how is this guy on the field? How is he on the sidelines in practice when injured? What is he doing when he's injured? Is he just standing around or is he by the whiteboard? How is he in the meeting rooms? What about the locker room? How does he react after big wins? That's 100%. Ultimately what it's about. And so it's like, look, if you're listening to this, you can have your own opinion about the Bradbury signing, right? But there's just so many other factors that we don't consider. Like, and then you look at the other 2 signings, the outside linebacker, Cairo Fackrell. What have we been saying, guys? They need to add someone. I get they got Zimenez there, but they need to add some more competition, especially because Chase Young might not be there at number 4 overall. And then tight end, like we get they've got Evan Ingram, but there's a drop off after that because like Caden Smith's still developing. So now you bring in Tololeo, who for the 49ers was ultimately like a number 2 guy, and he's going to be someone. If Tololeo beats Caden Smith out, you're going to see him starting next to Evan Ingram, and they're going to roll out a lot of 2 tight end sets, which again is what Judge did for so many years with the Patriots. I mean, he comes from a system that thrives on 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, I actually really like the Toilolo signing. If you've ever looked at a picture of him, he is a completely massive human being. I think he's like 6'9" or 6'8" or something ridiculous. And he's just going to fill Rhett Ellison's hole that left behind in his retirement. So he's going to be a solid blocker for us. I don't necessarily think he's going to steal snaps from Caden Smith. I just think when they're running, Toilolo is going to help them block better. And I do like the Kyler Fackrell signing. I think that he could potentially be a nice sleeper player, similar to, probably not as good as Shaquille Barrett last year, but it could be a similar situation where this is a guy who's been working as a backup for most of his career and has looked really good whenever he has the chance to play, but he hasn't really had the chance to be a full-time starter, and maybe he'll end up getting more opportunities with the Giants, and he can really increase his productivity, because in 2018 he did have 10.5 sacks, and he only started in 7 games, but then this year, after they signed those 2 Smiths, he started 0 games and only had 1 sack, but his snap count went down significantly. So I really like that signing as well. Fackrell, I think that could be a huge sleeper signing for this team.
Graham worked with him, right?
Yeah,
that's what the deal is. So
yeah, he was linebacker coach for the Packers in 2018.
Right, that's another connection. You say, what I mean?
So, yeah, so So that's another sign that it's like people are gonna look at and be like, "Are you paying? Who's Fackrell first off, and why are you paying 4.5 million to him?" But you're gonna see the similar or the familiarity between both the players. Now, like looking at it, there's still a hell of a lot of free agents left, guys. I mean, people are talking about Jadeveon Clowney. He's potentially Giants mutual interest that's been reported for a couple weeks now. There's guys like Everson Griffin that are still available. Linval Joseph, they could sign either of those guys, beef up the defensive line. And then if they want to get really interesting and add another pass rusher to the mix, that would be really good in coverage who could like kind of be a security blanket because Blake Martinez can't cover for his life. I would suggest going after Leonard Floyd, who they wanted 4 years ago.
I would love Leonard Floyd in a Giant uniform. I mean, we all know Frackwell could, as an edge rusher, he could rush the passer. If we have Leonard Floyd, too, that'll be great. Shout out to a couple of my friends that listen to the podcast, every week. My friend Anthony was like, with these signings, and say if they do get Floyd, he said that, maybe Simmons is not trending in the right direction. I don't really agree with him on that because I think he would fit in perfectly, as far as guarding a tight end and then letting these guys do their job and rushing guys. And plus, you could play Simmons anywhere. You could throw him at free safety or bring him up in the box too. So I wouldn't count that out as him coming in there, without signing all these linebackers that we're going to go draft an offensive tackle number 4. I don't believe that. But, maybe Clowney does sign here too. That'd be nice.
Oh, if Clowney signs here, if Clowney signs here, you're taking the defense from being like a league to all of them. I really think if Graham develops some of these younger players correctly, they could easily be like a top 10, top 15 unit, especially while the offense kind of gets things figured out under Jason Garrett. Because I do believe that's going to be the strength of the Giants in 2019. Defense is going to kind of come in, carry the weight while Danny Jones and the rest of these guys get acclimated, with the new offensive scheme that's running.
Yeah, I hate to burst the bubble, but it doesn't seem like there's much of a chance that we land Jadeveon Clowney because Jordan Renan and also Art Stapleton have both said on Twitter that it looks like the Giants have pulled themselves out of the Clowney race because the price is too high. And if you do the math on the Giants' salary cap to this point, I think that they have spent nearly $58 million, and we started with 78. So that puts us at around $20 million. If the cap numbers that have been reported hold true. And so that would mean we have $20 million left, and Dave Gettleman said that he wants to carry $20 million into the season. So I think, you could take Jadeveon Clowney off the table. I think that's out of the question. I don't really think there's much of a chance that we sign any more big name players. I think it's going to be depth pieces from here on out, and that can definitely be exciting. You definitely want to pay attention to those because they can be big difference makers. But also at the same time, I really wonder what the Giants are going to do with Marcus Golden because they haven't really had any progress there either. And like I said, the cap space is dwindling. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Should they make it a priority to get Marcus Golden before we run out of cap space?
It's a tough question for me, man. I like the guy. I thought he played pretty well last year, but I got my heart set on Clowney. I'm not gonna
lie. Anyway, guys, like I was saying, so I think Marcus Golden's as good as gone, just because the deal with him is the fact that it's they signed Fackrell, they already put so much money in linebacker, and now you have Leonard Floyd that's available. So I don't. And I've heard Marcus Golden, right? There are a couple other teams that are interested in him. I know for a fact, and I can tell you guys this because I've got a source with the Bears. The Bears were interested in Marcus Golden 2 days before free agency started. So, and he was on the NFL Brawl too a couple of days or last week actually, just talking about his free agent journey, where he thinks he's going to end up. He said that last year was when he was fully healthy, right? Because he was never healthy in Arizona. That was the first year he felt like he could play at a high level. And so when I look at Marcus Golden, it's I think he's good as gone, especially because you got to remember, you got to save money now for the upcoming draft class because you're going to have a 1 and 2, and then you've got your third, you've got your fourth too. So I want to say the draft class is going to take up $10 million or almost, I want to say about probably like $10 million of cap space. So you just got to be smart with your money from here on out. I will say this though, if there is someone like that drops into the second wave of free agency that you don't expect to drop, you got to go ahead and pick that person up.
I hope it's Floyd for us. I would love that guy there. Or Clinton Dix for like the free safety position. I love Love. But I don't know if he's ready to step into that role yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm happy you brought up a safety because somebody that I have my eye on like tremendously is Anthony Harris from the Vikings, and I know he just got franchise tagged, but I woke up to the news this morning of Ian Rappaport tweeting that they franchise tagged him and they sort of intend on trading him. They're looking to see if they can get a mid to late round pick. And that is like music to my ears. If the Giants can throw a mid to late round pick for Anthony Harris, then you can move Julian Love into the slot, keep Bradbury and DeAndre Baker on the outside with obviously Jabril Peppers playing strong safety. I think that's perfect. It kind of completes our secondary right there, in my opinion, because I think Julian Love is a great coverage guy. I think he played great at safety, but he is a natural slot cornerback. You can put him there again, or you can rotate him at safety, play 3 safeties if you want, get creative. Patrick Graham said he would get creative. But Anthony Harris, I think he's 28 years old, so I don't think we need to sign him to a long-term deal necessarily. But then again, our last free safety was, 35 years old, 38 years old, Antoine Bethea. So Anthony Harris at 28 years old is plenty young by Dave Gettleman's standards, and he's kind of an elite free safety back there. So I'd be more than happy sending a late round, mid-round pick, 4th, 5th round. I would do it instantly just to get Anthony Harris on this team.
Yeah, I would do that.
But like, oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, man. I would definitely do that.
You see, I would do that, but then at the same time, like I look at the safety market, and I think the only guy that's been signed so far, if you're following along with our Brawl Network free agency tracker, which you can find on the website, is the fact that the only safety I think that's been signed so far has been Jimmy Ward, which I think was reported late last night or early this morning. So there's still tons of safeties out there. You got guys like Von Bell, Carl Joseph, Clint Dix. That safety market, I think you're really going to see it. Got safeties start to fly off the board once this kind of first wave hits, because there's still a lot of talent right now. Like Dante Fowler's a guy that's out there, and we haven't even mentioned that he's out there. So like, this is one of the deeper free agency classes, and there are going to be guys that like in other free agency classes would be like gone within the first 3 days, but it's like, nope, those guys are going to be those guys are going to be there in the second wave, and you could argue that they could come in and legitimately start right away, so you're going to get them on bargain deals.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent counterpoint. The safety market really hasn't heated up like at all, but I think that's kind of a good point for getting Anthony Harris as well, because I think his contract isn't going to be too high if you trade for him and you sign him, and then at the same time, I don't think you're going to have to give up too much in order to get him, because it doesn't seem like there's a huge market out there for him. I don't think it would be a huge bidding war. I think you could maybe even get him for a 5th round pick at this point. And like I said, that's an elite talent that you're getting for a 5th round pick at only 28 years old. So yeah, the safety market isn't really heating up, but I think that could work to the Giants' benefit, and they could maybe get this guy for a really cheap price.
Yeah, there'll be guys available definitely in the next few days to a week. Definitely interested to see what other holes they could fill before this draft.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I'm looking at too, right? Is it's like the needs kind of changed, because you could I know Anthony mentioned this, right? So you could legitimately argue that they won't be going with certain positions at 4. We've gotten a much clearer idea now just of what they're going to do at 4th overall. So they're not going to go Kuda because they poured big money into Bradbury. You look at the way they were. I was trying to. They don't know what they're going to do. I mean, boneheaded Redskins fans, their franchise is trash, and they think that they're going to be going after Chase, or they're automatically locks to land Chase Young. So, like, I don't know what's going to happen with that draft board, and that's something that, like, legitimately I'm excited about, but like also kind of concerned about.
It's going to be very interesting to see who trades up and whatnot. I mean, you're talking about like what what are the teams behind us again? Miami at 5. Who's at 6 and 7?
6 is the
Chargers, right?
Chargers, 7 is Panthers.
So they all need quarterbacks except for the Panthers who just signed Teddy Bridge. So like 2 teams behind us still need a QB. Like, are they going to make a move, or like are we going to be in position to make a trade back?
I quickly just want to say that Bridgewater contract, I think that was really stupid. And then also I want to say the draft is really contingent on what trades happen at 2 and 3 for the Giants at least, because the Redskins, they've had definitely some talks about trading back. We've heard a few rumors here and there. They're definitely open to the idea. While I think they're going to go Chase Young, they might trade back. It's possible. And then I did see somewhere that it was like locked in that the Lions were going to take Okuda at 3. I've also seen plenty of reports saying that they're thinking of trading back. So, like I said, if they trade back or if the Redskins trade back, then there's not really much of a market for the Giants to trade back. But if both of them stay put, make their picks, Giants can get a king's ransom for a team that only wants to move up 1 or 2 spots, and then you're potentially looking at getting an extra second or an extra first-round pick and moving back 1 or 2 spots and still getting the player that you're going to draft at number 4, which is, of course, the ideal scenario for the Giants.
Lions today would letting Devin Kennard go, but then they signed Jamie Collins. I'm like, all right, thank God, because I thought maybe they would go after Simmons, like the first pick ahead of the Giants, and just draft him. But if somebody, like a quarterback needy team, comes and like really pressures them and gives them a sweet deal, and then Simmons falls in the Giants' lap, which obviously you guys know I love the fucking guy, but that would be like my prayers is like the Detroit don't mess anything up and draft Simmons. That would drive me nuts.
All right, while we're speaking about the draft, joining us now, though, we've got one of the Brawl Network's newest members, Dante Colinelli, on. He's a Dolphins fan, guys, so he's out for all the free agency stuff that's been going on. And he lives in Philadelphia. He's on this pod wearing, is that a Sixers shirt, dude? What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, Ben Simmons, the NBA is done. I'm sad, but still got to rep my team.
I hate it. You should burn that shirt.
Yeah, so obviously, like, Mike lives in Dante does some great work for bluechipscouting.com. He's an NFL draft analyst there. Go check him out. And my good friend Dalton Miller, who's a Cowboy, and so Mike doesn't like my choice of friends right now, but Dante's not an Eagles fan, which is a good thing because we really rag on pretty much everyone on this pod, dude. But Dante, we gotta ask you, like, obviously tons of free agent moves going down, and we were just discussing a moment ago the Dolphins. I mean, they're at 5, and they're probably gonna go quarterback. Do you see them sitting there and waiting for like Tua or Herbert, or do you see them like jumping to Giants to 4th overall and getting Tua or Herbert from the Detroit Lions?
I don't think that they're going to have to jump anybody, especially with the flurry of moves that we've seen today. Carolina going after Teddy Bridgewater. I think the only team that we'd have to worry about trading ahead of us is the Chargers. So I don't see any reason to jump the Giants. I think we can sit some Dolphins fans who like to yell at me on Twitter that we're going to take Jordan Love at 5, whatever. I think we can sit and take any of those 3 guys, and it'll work out. And I think the trade up might be out of the question for Miami right now. I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, so like, Mike, what do you guys, and Anthony, what do you guys think of just Dante's analysis there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to get worried too, where all these quarterbacks are moving to, and Phillip going to the Colts, and I mean, I don't know where Cam's going to go. Maybe goes to the Bears, which you guys want. Dude, it really depends on the rest of this free agency. Then it's like, all right, maybe the Giants just stay put, and then they have no choice, and they have no choice to trade back. I mean, I don't know. You won't know for another week. I think.
I gotta say, I think it's really contingent on what the Chargers decide to do. Right now, their quarterback is Tyrod Taylor, if I'm not mistaken. So if they don't sign or trade for somebody, I think they're going to definitely look to draft a quarterback. And then it's going to be, do they want Tua or do they want Herbert? And then I think you're going to see that the Dolphins and Chargers might get into a bidding war to move up to see who wants Tua. But if the Chargers have Herbert as their number 1 and the Dolphins have Tua as their number 1, then it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to have to make any trades. So you would be right in that case, Dante. But I guess it really just depends on what the Chargers do in free agency.
What if the Patriots
it's a big domino.
What if the Patriots want to come up and get their quarterback of the future for the next 15? What if they throw every pick at him? Like, come on, man. That's a scenario nobody's talking about. Watch the Patriots. Watch what Bill Belichick does. Former Giant, man. Former Giant. We do crazy things.
Dante, what do you think? Do you want the because you're in the AFC East, and do you want that? You want the Patriots to trade up at all, dude? Because like we joke about the Yeah, we trash talk the Patriots so much on this pod, dude. Some of our other guests, like, it is not good once we get into our trash talking segment. But Anthony wanted to trash talk Tom Brady today, which is not a good thing because we always have to do it on this.
That's a bold move. Look, I've been waiting for the Patriots to go away for my entire life. I've been alive for 20 years, and they've dominated the division for 20 years. So I cannot tell you how happy I was when I woke up this morning, and the first Schefter notification I received was that Brady was getting the hell out of New England, man. It was surreal to be able to sit there and actually believe that even though my team is really bad right now, that maybe we could win the AFC East next year or the year after. I don't know. Obviously, he's going to Tampa Bay, which I personally think is a weird move. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. I know you might have already talked about it, but I'm just curious.
Oh, it's odd because so Bruce Arians must have made like a super strong sales pitch to him, and been like, "Hey, look, this is what we're trying to build here." And the deal with the Bucs is this: so they're an offensive powerhouse, and they're going to be that in 2020 because of like Evans and Godwin and OJ Howard. I heard Cameron Brate was on the trade block. Little tidbit from a source there because he's only making $6 million in 2020. But like at the same time, I mean, the defense. Who do they have? Like Devin Bush, JPP, the former Giant. That's about it. So and regarding just winning the division, I still think this is right now. It's Buffalo's division to lose, even though like the Giants and Dolphins had a lot of the same free agent targets.
Yeah. No, we did. Similar defenses. I mean, the old Dolphins defensive coordinator is the new Giants defensive coordinator. So similar targets. Kyler Fackrell, I thought was probably going to end up in Miami if Patrick Graham had stayed, but he went to the Giants instead. So I think it's a pretty good signing from scheme, at least.
So, we want to ask you about that because, you mentioned Patrick Graham, and I know Anthony's going to have a million questions because he says that Patrick Graham's going to be super versatile. Did you see him mixing things up, a lot last year, just in terms of the defense he was running week to week? And do you think for, younger players it was a complicated scheme, or...
I think it's a very multiple scheme. I think, he puts a premium on versatility, but that's kind of the Patriot way. I mean, that goes for Detroit and Matt Patricia and even Romeo Crennel and Houston to a certain extent with Bill O'Brien. But I think that, any player who can play a multitude of positions and defend the run is going to have a place in his defense. It's a defend the run first scheme, right? They want to contain the run, and then they want to force you to beat their secondary. New England was able to do that with, Stephon Gilmore being the lockdown corner that he is. Miami's trying to do it with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So the secondary, there's a lot of pressure on those guys. If they're not up to the task, then the defense is not going to go well. But they're going to sell out to stop the run. They're going to try and make you throw over the top of them. Patrick Graham will, he doesn't send a ton of blitzes. They don't really rely a ton on pressure. Which might actually be beneficial to the Giants since edge rusher is not exactly their best roster spot right now. But, he doesn't rely on guys who are going to come blazing off the edge and sack the quarterback. It's a team defense. Get after the quarterback as a team, get pressure, stop the run, keep everything in front of you. And it worked really well in Miami last year. The defense really started to click after about, the sixth week. They stopped getting blown out 60-0. And, the defense really came around there at the end.
And you think that was more of a Patrick Graham thing or more of a Brian Flores thing?
I think it probably has a lot to do with Brian Flores, but it's difficult to really take away or give all the credit to Brian. I mean, Patrick's still the play caller in that for the Dolphins last year, and he still did a ton of the coaching. But Obviously as a Dolphins fan, I hope that it's mostly Brian Flores and less Patrick Graham, just because, we have one of those guys and we don't have the other. But Patrick did a really good job last year, just managing and getting players, man. I mean, we were running out street free agents every week at every position. I mean, he made Nick Needham look like a competent corner. So, if he can do half of that job for the Giants, I think you guys will be really happy with him.
Well, I think Mike's super excited with your analysis, right? Because, so Mike's a Giant homer, which pun intended there, because he thinks the Giants are winning all 16 games in 2020, and Danny Dimes is going to have the same number of rings as Ariana Grande, which is 7.
Over 7.
Yeah, or way
Over
more than 7. But
I do like your analysis, man. It really threw me for loops. I'm confused. I'm hearing good things, but I'm looking at that T-shirt, it says Philly on it. I'm a little bit of a mind fuck right now. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about the Giants, especially when it looks like they're really hot on Leonard Floyd right now by the minute. He's on the top of their wish list right now to get, apparently. So. I mean, that's another edge rusher that I love the Giants to get. But besides that, yeah, I mean, this NFL is going to look so weird with all these new quarterbacks at different uniforms, man, with Tom in Tampa. It's just, it's weird, but I guess that's what happens when these guys get older, man. They move on, and then, like Brett Favre, going to Minnesota and the Jets and stuff. It's definitely a little strange, man.
Yeah, Dude, it's okay. So, I think I kind of saw the Brady news coming, just because it was what more does this guy need to accomplish? In his legacy, Tom Brady's always going to be known as the dude who won 6 Super Bowls and lost 2 in 4 years to the Giants. That's always who he's going to be known as, because all his work was done as a Patriot. When you look at
kissing everybody on the lips. Oh, leave that out. You said. All right, he's kissing on the lips. It's weird. He's following that.
Yeah.
Let me just stop there. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube for what I was about to say. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, but Dante, you do tons of work on blue chip scouting, and I love reading your stuff. Yep. Just when you look at the Giants at 4 right now, who would you have them targeting right now if the draft were to be tomorrow, let's say, especially with all the moves that they've made?
I think they got to be targeting one of the top tackles. For me, I think it's him or Isaiah Simmons. I think Simmons has to be in consideration. The only reason I would lean away from Simmons is just based on the fact that they seem to be addressing the linebacker position so heavily in free agency. I wouldn't mind if they double dipped. That just doesn't strike me as a Dave Gettleman strategy, so I'm sorry. But as far as the tackles go, I mean, Jedrick Wills would be great. Tristan Wirfs would be great. I don't love Mekhi Becton as much as the consensus does, probably. I think he's good, but top 5 is really, really bold. Well, he's raw.
Let me ask you a question. On the back of that Philly shirt, what's the name on that jersey?
Simmons.
Okay. That's the sign we were looking for. We just got to change that.
Well, Simmons would be a great pick. There's nothing against it. I don't think that's a pick Dave Gettleman would make at 4, especially when he spent money on Blake Martinez and Kyle Fackrell already. But Simmons would be great. I'd love to see him in New York. I think he would really, really flourish under Patrick Graham. I think that's a good fit. I think Graham would let him play 3 different positions every game.
Right.
So
that's why
you got no complaints from me if that's the pick at 4.
That's exactly why I don't care about them signing all the linebackers in the world right now, because we could throw them at linebacker, we could throw them at the edge, we could throw them in defensive line, we could throw them in the safety position, we could throw them anywhere, man. I'm very excited about this draft, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, excited about it, but they're gonna freaking block off all the fan events and whatnot, which is gonna suck because that's the best part of the draft, But I mean. So where do you have Becton ranked though? In your overall rankings?
So he's he's like 31st, I think, for me, which is like a high second round grade on my board. So definitely a good player. I just think top 5 is rich. He's really raw, and he's great when he gets his hands on you, but he doesn't get his hands on everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to show those clips on Twitter of him putting guys in the ground, and that's great. But, he does. There's plenty of reps where guys are beating him too. So, it's a give or take. I think Will's worse. Even Thomas is a more polished prospect at 4. And, you draft a quarterback like Daniel Jones, you got to get some help in front of him, man, because he don't deal with pressure well at all. So tackle is going to be I think if they don't address it with their first pick, they should address it with 2 picks in the middle rounds. That would be my strategy, at least. If you want to take Simmons at 4, I'd take 1 tackle on day 2 and another one on day 3.
Exactly.
Yeah, or they could up and go so they could go like tackle at 36, and I think Josh Jones from Houston is going to be there. And then what is it, the Giants are picking at 399, right? Yeah, something like that. It's 399, so you could grab like Ben Barch there, who blew it up at the Senior Bowl, who not the entire world knows about right now. Speaking of which, have you guys watched Ben Barch at all? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony's shaking his head, dude, because Anthony started the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag Race for Chase, and he's got some crazy scenario that Chase Young's going to fall to the Giants, which he's going to go with until, yeah, he does. So, Anthony, what's your scenario, dude?
It's a dream that I will not let die until it officially does. Okay, the scenario is it's gonna be Joe Burrow number 1. We can all pen that one down. But then number 2, it's either gonna be Tua Tagovailoa to the Redskins, or it's going to be to the Dolphins, or whoever trades up. Someone's going to trade up, get a quarterback at 2, and then someone's going to trade up and get a quarterback at 3 as well. I think, you're going to see a bidding war, and then a team's going to trade up. They're going to think they're getting their guy, and then someone's going to jump them because the Redskins are going to be like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to trade out. And then they're going to get this blown away offer after somebody trades up to 3, and then they're finally going to trade back. And then it's going to go 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks, Burrow, Tagovailoa, and then Herbert. And then Chase Young is just going to fall right into the Giants' lap. Finally, we get our pass rusher that we need. Don't have to overpay for Clowney or trade for Ngakoue. We just get our homegrown talent in Chase Young with the 4th overall pick.
Wow, that's a perfect scenario, I gotta say.
It's gonna happen.
I don't know how realistic it is, but
it's pretty realistic because it's gonna happen. It's real.
If it does, I will remember this conversation. I'll tell you that. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen just in terms of so you look at the draft 4 or 5 or 5 years ago now, where the Eagles, they traded the farm basically to draft Carson Wentz. Bears did that a year later. They didn't trade the farm per se, but they gave up 2/3 and a 4th to move up one spot to get Trubisky, because that's what's happening with quarterbacks now. If you guys have noticed the trend over the last couple of years, that it's teams are always going to be willing to give up whatever to get those guys. I mean, the Texans gave up a 1st to get Watson. Chiefs did the same with Watson. I mean, the Giants, they stayed at 6 last year and got Danny Dimes. So and the Redskins did the same too. I think they stayed at 15, and Haskins felt at him, and he was arrogant about it. So this whole quarterback, it's just going to be another year where, because you have 3 quarterbacks that could go in the top 5, you're going to have guys like Simmons, Chase Young, one of the big 4 offensive tackles that are going to end up falling. And I personally think Becton's going to be the overdrafted one out of the offensive tackle group.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I think, and he's not a bad player. I don't want it to come off like I'm bashing the guy or anything. I just think top 5 is crazy rich. I mean, I know it's a hot commodity right now. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah, he's in the know. He mocked him at 4. I get it, but God, I can't see it. That'd be out of this world. I think Wills is as polished as you can get and equally as powerful almost. So I don't know. I think he'll be overdrafted, but to your point that quarterbacks are going to go high, I could totally see one team trading up for a quarterback. I don't know about a second one, just because I don't know how bullish the league is on either Tua or Herbert. It's one or two teams might like them. That technically that's all it takes. It'll be big. You know, it'll be big for you is if the Chargers trade up. That would be the one. You'd have to think Miami comes up for Tua at 2, and then the Chargers have to come up for Herbert at 3, probably. Yeah,
exactly. And then we get Chase Young at 4.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's
because the Chargers. What's going to happen is they're going to call the Redskins. They're going to be like, hey, we want to trade up. They're going to be like, well, you don't have any additional first round picks, so there's no way we're going to trade this to you, and we can get Chase Young. They're going to be like, okay. Then they call the Lions, and they're like, we'll trade up. We'll give you our second round pick. They're like, okay, we'll move back 3 spots. We'll still get Jeff Okudah, and we'll get an additional second round pick. We'll do that. And then the Dolphins are gonna call the Redskins and be like, hey, we do have 3 first round picks. We can give you an extra first round pick and an extra second round pick. How about that? They're like, okay, sure, we'll trade back with you. And then 1, 2, 3, all quarterbacks, Chase Young 4. It's gonna happen, and then I'm gonna look like a mad genius when it does.
I don't see Anthony's gonna die on this hill, okay? And me trying to present a neutral point of view. Like, I think it's going to be Simmons or offensive tackle at 4, like I've been saying since, like, January, because every single free agent signing the Giants made today, or, like, over the last 2 days, we told them to make so on this pod. So, Getty's listening to what we have to say. Now, I will say this, though. I'm afraid of, like, a team like San Francisco wanting to get into the, top 10, too, because they're already at 13 and they're picking at 31, too, which, like, they still, that 2 first-round picks, like, that's hard for any team to kind of turn down.
That might be real tough to turn down, man. God, you just don't know what's going to happen, man. We just have to, grab a case of beer before the draft starts, hang out, and just wait for it to roll in our favor, man. But, whoever the Giants get at number 4, we're all going to have their back as Giant fans, as diehard Giant fans, whoever it is. We're gonna root for them. We're just gonna hope for the best, and hopefully they make the right pick, man, for the whole draft, not just the number 4 pick.
Yeah, I'll be drafting my Chase Young jersey the very next day. I'll be ordering that off NFLshop.com.
So just looking at the second, that second round, I mean, I think I'm not going to pick it's this one because, there's right now, like, you got 3 wide receivers that are going to go in round 1. I think that's going to be Ruggs, Judy, and Lamb. And then in that second round, I mean, there's some guys that are, like, first-round talents, right, that would go, like, first round in 2019 or whatever, that you could legitimately, see there. So who do you have, like, as a steal in the second round?
For receiver, I think Jalen Reagor maybe from TCU, just because he had the poor combine. But if you turn on the film, he's fast, he's explosive, he's got great, he's athletic, he's a pretty solid route runner. He's a player who's still inside of my top 40. I know he didn't test well. I think he tried to bulk up his frame too much, and it just really slowed him down. But hell of a receiver. He might be available in round 2. Justin Jefferson from LSU is another one who I think could be available at that early second round pick. Control, great hands. He strikes me as a good receiver for Daniel Jones, someone to get the ball out quickly in the short areas of the field. And he ran pretty well too, so he could stretch it a little bit. Darius Slayton on the outside, him on the inside. I think that could be a little combo too.
What do you think of T. Higgins? I know he didn't do so well at the Combine. People have really stayed away from him lately, but what do you think of him?
Higgins is interesting. I think he's a little bit of a better route runner than we'll give him credit for. He's just outside of my top 40, but he's inside my top. He's like 43 for me. So I would say he's probably a second-round player. I think, Higgins, his combine shouldn't have mattered, personally. He didn't run fast on tape. Like, you should not have been expecting him to run fast. He doesn't look fast on tape. He doesn't separate on film. If you liked him before he ran that time, you could still like him. If you didn't like him before he ran that time, then you're not going to like him still. He's good at the catch point. He has good body control, strong hands. I think he'd be able to play at the next level. I just don't think he's a first-round pick. I think that's a little bit little bit too high, a little bit over the hill for him, but he's a quintessential outside X receiver. You know, that's going to be him. He's going to body guys and he's going to get physical with corners. He's just not going to be an elite separator. There's just nothing. There's nothing he can do about it. He's not fast and he's not quick. So
yeah,
still a good player though.
I saw a comparison for Higgins, and I think it was like Allen Robinson or something, and I thought that was ridiculous because like I don't see Allen Robinson 2.0 and T. Higgins. I see more of like a Derek Mason type guy, you know, just who played for the Ravens like way back in the day. But like Higgins is another like super interesting name because I know back in like October or whatever, people for sure thought like he was one of the top wide receivers in this class. And I'm like, okay, is he really? Because like you have your big three there in Ruggs, Lamb, and Jerry Jeudy, who I think will all be like top 20 picks, you know, just to be safe. Because there are a couple teams you look at, like the Raiders, for example, they need wide receivers. You know, so those three are going to go in the first round. After that, you're going to, I mean, I feel like after like 20, the draft's just like super wide open because there are a couple. I expect all the offensive tackles to be off the board, and so I think you're going to see like a run on defensive backs in the back half of round one.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive back class is really good, so it wouldn't surprise me. We could see a run on receivers in the back half of round one, too, just because the amount of teams in a row. The Eagles, the Bills aren't there anymore, but the Vikings need a receiver now because of Stephon Diggs. Packers, Saints could use a receiver at the back end of the first round. There's an argument to be made that the Patriots still need a receiver. So it could be corner or receiver, really, at the back end of the first.
Dude, friggin' the Patriots. I just have this feeling that they're not going to trade the damn farm for Tua. I seriously have this feeling that they're going to, you know, surprise everybody and then reach for what's the quarterback of the kid from Georgia, dude, the athletically limited one, Jake Fromm. I have a feeling they're going to, Fromm or Jalen Hurts are going to be the Patriots pick at 31. Everyone's going to be like, what the hell? And then I'm going to be sitting here and be like, yeah, you know, you may think that they're going to that they reach for these guys, which they kind of did in certain cases. But then at the same time, like, if it's anyone that can get the best out of them, it's McDaniels and Belichick.
Without a doubt, man. I mean, God, everything they touch just seems to turn to gold, man, no matter what quarterback they have up there. I mean, when Tom Brady got hurt, you know, who'd they have?
Castle, dude? Yeah.
Up and he goes like 11-5. I'm like, listen, I ain't doubting anything New England does, but I tell you what, I might have to bet Miami Dolphins to win that division this year. I think they might.
I like the sound of that.
Up there. But it all depends on what quarterback they get. I want to see if they do get the guy that I like in the draft, Justin Herbert. I think he's the guy for Miami, but we'll see.
Dude, but like, okay, Herbert doesn't. I feel like.
I think he's good.
Herbert, like, he just doesn't strike me as like being the Dolphins quarterback. I feel like it's going to be Tua or Jordan Love because those just seem like the two like tangible fits for me. I will say this though, Herbert, like if I had to make a mock draft right now, I would mock him to the Chargers personally. Just because I feel like you're walking into an ideal situation there where you are getting, you know, you have Tyrod Taylor potentially as your bridge quarterback, and then Herbert's going to, you know, take a year to basically learn everything that he needs to and then take over in 2021.
I'd probably start him right away because it's Miami, and you know what I mean. I mean, he's just throw him into the pile, man. Throw him into the woodwork and let him go. I mean, Tyrod Taylor. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's a good point, dude.
Man, he sucks.
Well, we also got to wait and see what happens with quarterbacks like Jameis Winston and Cam Newton because you never know. Maybe one of those lands in Miami or LA. I personally, I think it would be perfect if Jameis went over to the Patriots and got turned to gold because he's got the ability to throw 30 touchdowns, but he's got to get the picks down. I mean, that would be – I think that's a cool fit. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if they could turn his career around.
That's my biggest fear. I would cry actual tears if the Patriots signed Jameis Winston and he was suddenly good. That would be truly depressing for me. But
McDaniels.
It would be appropriate, though. It would be appropriate.
I think it's going to happen, man, but we'll see. I also think I wouldn't be shocked if they went after Cam Newton right there either.
Don't boo. If there's one jersey Cam Newton's gonna be wearing in September, right? No, during preseason when he gets his reps, because Matt Nagy's not gonna hold the starters out in preseason this year, is gonna be blue and orange, all right, in Chicago. Like that's the one place Cam Newton belongs, just because. Yeah, I've had to sit through decades of quarterback garbage. I mean, for real.
No, you're telling me.
You do not want Cam. He should retire, man. He's done. Way too many injuries. He dresses like a fruit. Like he's done.
You're alive for him.
Mike.
Sorry.
Nut job.
I mean, you see his outfits, right? I mean, come on, man. Nobody dresses like that. Nobody. How do you walk around in public like that?
Oh my god!
Wearing like these shorts and these bow ties. Bow ties and shorts don't belong together.
I don't know, dude. Dude, I've heard from people though, like Cam, just in the league in general, it's like, so Cam Newton, people hate him because they hate his antics, but at the same time, like I've heard he's one of the freaking toughest players ever. I just thought personally the way that they handled the Cam Newton situation today was like totally unprofessional, because this dude carried your freaking trash franchise, and you never gave him like an offensive line or anything to like make him successful, or like at least have him be semi-successful. And when he did have like a good offensive line, or offensive lineman like Andrew Norwell, you let the dude walk to the Jags in like 2016 or 17. And then, you guys were expecting to be competitive because they got like Greg Olsen and Devin Funches and Christian McCaffrey. But like they handled the Cam situation so unprofessional, which is why I think like wherever he goes, he's going to accomplish like what he did not accomplish in Carolina, which is win a Super Bowl.
But his strength is being a running quarterback, right? I mean, being a running quarterback, you don't last that long in the NFL. You get hit and you get injured, and I think that's what led to his downfall. I mean, he was great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I joke around about him a lot, but like he lit it up for years.
You're only saying that you think he's going to win a Super Bowl wherever he goes because you're confident that he's going to the Bears. So you're not slick for that. I heard that. That's not happening, man. It's not guaranteed whoever gets Cam Newton, he's not going to instantly take them to the Super Bowl. He's coming off of two injuries, 2 years of injury.
See, this is if he goes to the Patriots, are you going to peg them to win the Super Bowl? Because that's what's going to happen with like Vegas and all these guys. Is if Cam goes,
they win the Super Bowl with Cam Newton.
No. Yeah,
the Patriots might, just because you can never count them out. It's the Patriots, but if he goes to the Bears, I'm not picking the Bears to win the Super Bowl, man.
Yeah, because you're going to pick the Giants to win the Super Bowl, who have way more roster holes.
I don't think the Giants are going to sniff the playoffs, man. I have no confidence in this team. Just being honest, I love the Giants. I'll root for them no matter what. If they win 0 games this year, I'm still gonna root for them. It doesn't matter. But I'm not confident in them at all, man. I haven't been blown away by the moves of free agency. I don't really, until Dave Gettleman's gone, I'm never gonna have full confidence in them. I hate to be like that because I know that we've got a lot of listeners who are gonna hate me for that, as we saw on Twitter a couple weeks ago. But I gotta say, man, I can't be fully confident in them because I don't know. I can't get into this whole conversation right now, but I see the Dolphins. I see what they're doing. I see how they're blowing it up and getting all this draft capital and then spending on the right players at the right positions and putting together good staff. And I say that's a team doing it the right way. That's how you rebuild. And then I see us trading away a third-round pick midseason for a defensive lineman, not making any effort to gain more draft capital, instead throwing draft capital away. And I say that's not how you rebuild a team. You don't hold on to a quarterback and yada, 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 running back at 2. I don't want to get into that one again. But like I said, I just don't have the confidence in this team right now. I know I'll always root for him forever. If it's up to me, we're going 16-0. That's my win prediction for the season. But confidently, I can't say that, you know. Mike, go ahead, yell at me all you want, but
and I disagree with you. We're definitely going 16-0. I have all the faith in the world in Gettleman and Co. We're filling some holes. We're making some moves. We're going to have another good draft. That'll be 3 good drafts in a row. Something we haven't had in, I don't know, probably
Yeah,
ever.
since like Ernie Accorsi, basically.
Exactly. I mean, let's go, man, and get them in we trust, man. Let's make some moves, man. We got a young team. 26, as I said, we're gonna build. We're gonna build this young core. We're gonna get better every year. Then we're gonna sign some free agents, sign some big names, maybe a trade during the year if we're competitive. And then you never know, man. Every year the NFL is different, man. There's always new teams that make the playoffs. Thank God New England's out because then some other team could actually go in the Super Bowl. I mean, I know Kansas City did it this year, but every year before it was always freaking New England. I mean, it's kind
Yeah, it's probably going to be like a Miami versus New York Giants one in 2021.
Dante, I want to know.
Let's
I
do
want to
it.
know quickly. What's
Yep.
your What do you think of Dave Gettleman? Just real quick, I want to know.
Oh Lord, loaded. I think Gettleman he doesn't have a problem with evaluation of players. He has a problem with valuation of players. I'll explain that. Saquon Barkley, clearly a good player. Do you drafted him at number 2?
Yes.
I don't know. I really don't.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah. So again, Leonard Williams, good player. Do you trade a 3rd round pick for him when you already have 4 other defensive tackles? Probably not. So I'm not a big Gettleman guy. I think he's a good scout. I just don't think he's a good decision maker. Like, he can be in the building. I just don't want him calling the shots.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Hold up. So, because you're in Philly, dude, do Eagles fans like constantly just rip Gettleman? Because like they're honestly the most annoying fan base in sports.
Yeah, he's a punchline here. The whole Giants organization is a punchline in Philadelphia. Based on
come on.
I'm just telling you, I'm not an Eagles fan. Don't kill the messenger here. I'm just telling you, all my friends are Eagles fans. You guys, the whole division's a punchline, really, to them.
Next time you talk to them, just tell them 4-1.
Yeah, yeah, they are flexing that 2017 Super Bowl still. I can't go 20 minutes in an argument without it. I was talking to the
Eagles. You guys, you're fans, like the Eagles fans in that fucking place. They win a Super Bowl. They go around eating horse shit.
Oh man, you beat me to it. I was gonna say when you talk to them, does horse shit just fall out of their mouth while they're talking about the Eagles? You beat me to it, Mike.
You're supposed to aren't you supposed to ride horses? They're fucking eating their shit. What's the matter with those people down there? They got some issues, man.
Yeah,
it's a wild city. It's a wild city.
It sure is.
I hate Philly, dude. Like, there's nothing interesting about Philly, okay? Besides, like, friggin' Ben Franklin and them, dude.
I love the city. I really do. I mean, but I grew up there and I go to school there, so I'm a bit biased. But I love the city of Philadelphia. The fans, on the other hand, they get on my nerves. Probably part of the reason why I'm a Dolphins fan. Not gonna lie, but I totally understand why you guys are out on Eagles fans. Totally get it.
Oh, definitely, dude.
How did you become a Dolphins fan?
Honestly, I think I don't know. I really don't. I've just always have been. Like, they were on the TV a lot when I was a kid for some reason. I don't know. My dad isn't an Eagles fan either. So, and then we used to go to Florida a lot when I was a kid too, and I just really liked it there. So I stuck with the Dolphins. I missed the Marino years, which is the weird part about it. A lot of people who are Dolphins fans are like, oh, I love Dan Marino, so I became a Dolphins fan. But I actually missed that years. The first Dolphins quarterback that I can remember like well is like Trent Green, I think, who was like the quarterback for maybe a season. So why am I a Dolphins fan? Partially it's because I want to torture myself for my entire life, but I don't have a concrete reason. I really don't. I always love them and I always will.
That's
Fair
good.
enough.
You know, he's
bless you.
you know, better torturing himself being a Dolphins fan than you are being a Eagles fan. Cause yeah, Eagles appeared in my garage today, guys, when I was taking the trash out, putting it on the curb. But guys, it's like we've been on here for what seems like forever. You know, let's get the hell out of here, all right? So Dante, where can we find you on Twitter, and where can people follow your work?
You can follow my work at bluechipscouting.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Dante Collinelli, DanteCollinelli. Should have picked an easier handle, but I did not.
Yeah, it should have been like Dante Draft Scout or something.
Yeah,
But
probably.
you should change it to that after this. But guys, follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Vardo. He's gonna be keeping you updated with all the signings that he hates. Follow Mike Trainer on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT. He's gonna be telling you why you should be listening to this podcast more often, because whatever we say, the Giants front office ends up doing. And if you're just looking to follow another random dude on Twitter, go ahead and check me out at the Sade Cole Show, and then follow the podcast account too, guys. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Giants Brawl. That is it, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you guys next week.